Hey folks, welcome back for another build video where we're looking at the Tipping the Scales brand set paired with the Iron Lung exotic light machine gun. For our specialization, we've gone with Gunner, which is an obvious pairing with any light machine gun build, but in particular we're looking at the Incessant talent granting 10% armor on kill, the Coupler talent where every third reload is 50% faster, and the Supply Line talent which grants 10% of total ammo capacity every 60 seconds. For primary weapon, we already mentioned it, but it is the Iron Lung exotic light machine gun, which comes with the Ardent talent. Shooting heats up the weapon, filling a heat meter. The meter is equivalent to 50% of the weapon's standard magazine size, and when the meter is full, rounds shot by the weapon ignite enemies. When not shooting, the meter depletes over time, and reloading or swapping the weapon fully depletes the meter. For our secondary weapon, we've gone with the Lexington assault rifle, just to give us access to a separate ammo pool. But really, any secondary weapon that you personally like to pair with your light machine gun is what you should go with here. And then similarly, the sidearm is not going to get a lot of utilization, so the two options that I would recommend is either, which comes with the Perfect Finisher talent, or I would go with the TDI card custom to give you access to that extra +1 skill tier, which if you run with the Reviver Hive, as I've shown on this build, will give you access to 2 hives before you deplete as opposed to just 1. For mask, we have our first piece of 4 pieces of Tipping the Scale, and as per usual, let's go ahead and run through the entire gear set here to save some time later on. At 2 pieces, you get plus 30% magazine size, which is great for any LMG build. On top of that, you get plus 30% LMG damage at 3 pieces, and then the 4-piece bonus, Throttle Control. Shooting build stacks up to a max of 50. Each stack provides plus 0.5% weapon handling and plus 4% critical hit damage, and you lose 6 stacks per second while not shooting, and no stacks are lost if an enemy is suppressed. And I want to make note of that last sentence there. You do not lose stacks if an enemy is suppressed, so if you can suppress an enemy before you have to do something like reload or make a movement, you can help guarantee that your stacks aren't going to be lost for throttle control just because you're not shooting. And then because Throttle Control gives you 4% critical hit damage for each stack, we've built into critical hit chance on this build. So down there in the attribute slot and the mod slot, you can see critical hit chance and critical hit chance again. That will be consistent across all of the Tipping the Scales pieces, critical hit chance wherever possible up to the max stack of 60%, barring any seasonal modifiers. For a backpack, we've gone with our second piece of Tipping the Scales, which comes with the Snowball talent, which increases the critical hit damage received per stack from 4 to 7%, so this is really worth getting on your backpack, which is why we've gone with the backpack and the chest talent for this build. And then again here we have critical hit chance and critical hit chance again in the attribute and mod slot. For a chest piece, we have our third piece of Tipping the Scale, unlocking that 3-piece bonus of 30% LMG damage. And then here we have the Sustainability talent, which increases the maximum number of stacks from 50 to 75. So between our backpack and our chest piece talent, we have increased the amount of critical hit damage that we can get from the Throttle Control talent from 200% to 525%, a significant increase, and why it is worth investing in both the backpack and the chest piece if you're going with just your standard Tipping the Scales LMG build. For gloves, we have the named Contractor's Gloves. 1 piece of Petrov Defense Group gives us plus 10% LMG damage, and then down there we have the unique secondary attribute of damage to armor. And then down there we've actually gone with critical hit damage because we are at our 60% critical hit chance cap, so investing more in critical hit chance would just be a waste, so we've gone with critical hit damage instead with the gloves. For our holster, we have our 4th and final piece of Tipping the Scales, unlocking the Throttle Control talent, which again, with our chest piece and backpack talents from above, now give us plus 7% critical hit damage up to a maximum of 75 stacks. So on this build in general, for your secondary attributes and your mod slots, spec into critical hit chance until you hit the 60% critical hit chance cap, and then invest the rest of it into critical hit damage or weapon handling if you want to make sure you're hitting your shots. For knee pads, we have the Fox's Prayer knee pads. Overlord Armaments gives us plus 10% rifle damage. That is completely wasted on this build, but what is not is the unique secondary attribute of plus 8% damage to target out of cover, significantly increasing our weapon damage multiplier, which is why it's worth having on this type of build, even though you're wasting the brand set bonus. For skills, we've gone with the Reviver Hive, and the shock trap skill. For this build in particular, these skills are preferential picks. You can go with whatever makes you feel the most comfortable on your LMG builds. I personally like the Reviver Hive when I'm running solo and in a group, especially when you pair it with the TDI card custom up there, because it means I can take cover, provide covering fire with the LMG, as well as a whole heck of a lot of damage. And then because this is a 6 red core build, I'm rather squishy, so I like to be able to get myself up, and then on top of that, I can get my teammates up as well if they go down. The shock trap similarly is very preferential, but for LMG builds where you're trying to stay in cover, I like the shock trap as a way to either block off an area that an enemy could come at me, or just throw it directly above me, so that if an enemy rusher does get to me, they're more likely to be shocked, giving me time to get away and reset up in a new area of cover. But that is this build. The Tipping the Scales gear set, I'm sure, is going to make an appearance on a lot of different builds going forward, as it is a great LMG focused build. So take this one for a spin, let us know what you think of it in the comments below. As always, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and please tell your friends about the channel so we can continue to make fun videos. And as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
Agent incapacitated. Vital signs critical. Incoming hostiles detected.
Hey, don't disturb.